that's my business. If I want to own a bazooka, because I've
never said I oppose fracking. Show the tape. Put it on your website. Put it on the website.
Live from Clark Studios in Rochester, New York. Broadcasting around the world. You're listening to You Made It Political, where the voice of the keyboard warrior is finally heard and the arguments presented are put to the political test. And now, here's your host, Matt Clark.
It's no surprise that Donald Trump started the greatest America First movement of our lifetime. Every policy, every executive order, every single decision was made for the American people. The conservatives grew to love him, but for some odd reason, the liberals grew to despise him. And that's because they were threatened by him. You see, while Trump was busy draining the swamp, America finally got to see Washington for what it really was: corrupt, dirty, and fake. We grew to appreciate and respect the fact that a president was finally putting the people before his own personal agenda. And although he was ultimately removed from office, the 75 million that so passionately supported him vowed to carry on his legacy. And that's exactly what's happening at this very moment. So buckle up, America. It's about to get real loud because 3 out of 4 Republicans want to see former President Trump play a major role in the GOP going forward, according to recent polls. It's no doubt that the Republican Senate messed up bad and the Patriots are pissed. Let's head over to Facebook, where we start our show today, and see just how loud we're all about to get. So as you can see here, according to Fox News today, I stumbled upon an article that I thought was perfect. And I thought, great. It's good to see that 3 out of 4 Republicans want to see former President Trump play a big role in the GOP going forward. Now, this is according to a recent national poll that just came out. And why I love reading this is because I've been really struggling to understand how fractured the Republican Party really is. We keep hearing on the news and in the media that the Republican Party is fractured. Well, how split are we? I seem to believe lately that it's pretty split bad between the diehard patriotic conservatives and your rhino/moderate Republican Mitt Romney likes. So the GOP is fractured by It's no surprise. It's very clear that it is fractured. But when I see polls come out that now tell us that 3 out of 4 Republicans actually want Trump back in the GOP, or actually wanted to play a major role in the GOP, I can't help but to think it's not as fractured as the media is letting on. Let's see what the American people have to say about the fact that so many Republicans actually want to see Trump play a major role in the GOP. So it very clearly says, thousands of awesome comments here. According to the news that just came out today, Cassandra says every single American should demand a re-election. Trump won this election. These articles are stupid. We want our president in office where he was elected. We are allowing a third world election with accepting this corrupt Democratic Party and all their bullcrap. Enough is enough. Fed up. Now, while I won't comment necessarily on the accusations of a fraudulent election, I will say this. The election was not investigated properly. There was no legal process that gave Trump his fair time in court, his fair trial that he deserved. And that is why so many people are upset and furious right now to this day. And that is why so many people have lost faith in the election process. And I guarantee the reason that the Democrats did not give Trump his fair day in court was because they knew single-handedly that it would destroy faith amongst Republicans moving forward in future elections. And they won. They didn't just win the election, they won future elections by destroying faith within the Republican Party right now. And I think that's very sad. They didn't let us go to court with the incredible amount of evidence that was provided or put forward. Local courts threw it out. The Supreme Court ultimately threw it out. And that is why 74 million Americans are so furious right now with the fact that we never even got a fair trial. So it's a very fair comment for people to still be upset. And moving forward, I can only hope that Republicans do get out and vote again. But they are furious, they're upset. But the show is all about the fact that 3 out of 4 Republicans want Trump to play a major role in the GOP. Judy says the 2022 elections are coming. Vote as many Republicans into office as possible. Get rid of the rhinos. And that's what we need to do. That's exactly what we need to do leading up to the 2022 election. We got to start priming the Patriots for office. We need to raise awareness as to who they are. We need to find more Matt Gaetz. We need to find more Jim Jordans, more Lauren Burbitts, more Elise Stefanik's. We need to find the Patriots and prime them and position them now, so by the time the 2022 elections come up, we know exactly how we're going to replace and who we're going to replace these rhinos with. So get rid of the rhinos. Hopefully it will slow down this damage and carnage we are now experiencing under the Dems. It's a very good point, and I think this is why so many Republicans want Donald Trump to be a part of the 2022 primaries. We need an influence as massive as he is. We need a real leader to bring Republicans back together and say, listen, our work here is not done. We need to win this fight, and we need to do it by getting new conservatives into office. Sandy says, I'm a Republican who wants to see the swamp continue to be drained. Get rid of Pelosi to start with. Mitch McConnell too. Stop this liberal freebie program. Fund education, military, and police. Start acting like America and not some pathetic socialist country. That's a phenomenal point, and I want to touch base on this a little bit more. I want to talk about Mitch McConnell for a second, because Mitch McConnell has been the biggest disappointment, besides Mitt Romney, of course, the biggest disappointment to the Republican Party. It's already fractured. There's a massive dent in the faith of the GOP. Mitch McConnell is not helping. Him coming out after he voted to acquit Trump, him then coming out to shame and slam Trump for the next day for the world to see, does not help unite the GOP. The country is already fractured. America is already more divided than it's ever been. So not only do we have a president of the United States who is doing everything but unite the American people, we now have the leader of the Republican Party also doing damage to cause further division within the GOP. Mitch McConnell should be doing exactly the opposite. We don't need the leaders of our own Republican Party shaming us and making patriots feel even more beat up than they already feel. Mitch McConnell, at this point, is no worse than the likes of Mitt Romney and the other 7 rhinos that voted to convict Donald Trump. He may as well have just voted to convict him, because what I think is disgusting and cowardly is the fact that Mitch McConnell, along with a few other Republicans, continue to hide behind the Constitution to get out of them voting for an acquittal. It's easy for them to hide behind the fact that, oh, well, it wasn't constitutional to begin with to even have this fake trial, so therefore I really shouldn't be voting to convict him. That's a cowardly cop-out. And anybody who uses that excuse is just as guilty as the rhinos. It was not only unconstitutional, but it was unfair. And 75% of Republicans know that. Hence the reason 3 out of 4 Republicans continue to back Donald Trump today and want him to play a major role in the GOP moving forward. Let's take a look at the article and break it down even further. So what exactly did this poll do? The poll says that most Republicans want to see Trump play a big role in the GOP going forward. Awesome. Now, the subheadline very clearly states, and makes sense, the polls provide a roadblock to top Republican leaders and conservative commentators who aim to move GOP past Trump. Notice how the only people who actually want to move the GOP past Trump are the likes of Mitch McConnell and Mitt Romney and the others who voted to convict him. That is hardly a true and accurate reflection of the Republican Party as a whole. We're talking a handful of people that I can count on 2 hands that actually want to move the GOP past Trump. Well, the poll dictates otherwise. And Mitch McConnell and Romney and the other rhinos are going to have to get very used to the fact that they might want to move the GOP past Trump, but 75% of Americans, or of Republican Americans, do not. So what exactly does this mean? Well, 3 out of 4 Republicans want to see former President Trump play a big role in the GOP going forward. This is according to a very reputable and popular poll, the Quinnipiac University National Poll. It was just conducted last Thursday through Sunday. So it's a very recent, fresh poll conducted last Thursday through Sunday during and after the acquittal of Trump. So obviously we want to know, okay, Trump's been acquitted. Great. The Democrats keep telling the world, well, just because he was acquitted doesn't mean he won. We really won because we showed America who Trump really is. Okay, well, let's see what the Republican Americans have to say about this. No, you didn't, because 75% now still think the whole thing was a sham. And still to this day, after the insurrection occurred, still back Trump. So we thought it was a sham before it started. We thought it was a sham during it. And we now continue to think the whole thing was a sham. So the Democrats didn't win. Actually, if anything, they made us rise up together even more, band together, and fight even harder. And see, this is what they don't understand. The Democrats, left-wing media, and left-wing social media platforms, they silenced one man. Just because they silenced one man doesn't mean the movement dies there. If anything, what they did is they pissed off 75 million American patriots who are now going to rise up in his place. So instead of one person on Twitter now exposing and draining the swamp and fighting the corruption and fighting for an America First agenda, you now have 75 million. It's no different than what I always tell people. It's like trying to kill a troll. When I try to kill trolls that hate on my channel, it's no use because 10 more pop up. So trying to silence a patriot is no use because you're going to always have 10 more pop up. So it was very stupid what social media did to silence Trump. It only woke a sleeping giant of 75 million patriots who are now going to fight in his place, and they're not going to let go. So buckle up, America. It's going to get really loud. And we got 4 more years of this leading up to the next presidential election. And you never know, it just might be Donald Trump again himself. Let's take a look at more of the article and break it down even further. So only a fifth of Republicans questioned in the survey said they don't want the former president to continue to play a dominant role. So only a fifth of those questioned in the survey said they don't want the former president to continue to play a dominant role in the party he reshaped and ruled over during his stormy 4 years in the White House. It was hardly a stormy 4 years. I mean, what was stormy during those 4 years? I don't even know why they would use this type of rhetoric in this article. Fox News does continue to amaze me at times. Just when I'm really starting to get to like them again, they go and use rhetoric like this. There was nothing stormy about the last 4 years. If anything, we saw unemployment at all-time lows, stock market at all-time highs. The economy was thriving. Coronavirus certainly put a damper in the works, but let's not forget that while the Democratic governors were locking us all down, Trump was screaming to keep the economy going. While the Black Lives Matter movement was destroying our cities, Trump was screaming, "Can I please send in the National Guard?" So Trump tried to do everything he possibly could to keep America going, and to keep America first, and to keep America on top. But our patriotic or political counterparts had a different agenda, and they did everything to put it last. So I don't see that there was much of a stormy last 4 years. If anything, I thought we thrived. And I'd also like to point out that when we were being locked down by our Democratic governors, our GDP dropped 30%, Q2 2020. When Trump said, "Can we please get back to work now? Can we please open the economy up? You guys are being ridiculous. We're not going to survive this. Open up now." We opened up. Q3 2020, we spiked back up 33% GDP. So lockdowns by our Democratic governors did destroy America, continue to destroy America. And that is what I would call a stormy last year and a half. But by all means, I would not call Trump's presidency stormy by any means. According to the poll, 87% of Republicans said that Trump should be allowed to hold elected office again. That is an overwhelming amount of support. 87% of Republicans said that Trump should be allowed to hold office. Sorry, Democrats, your little insurrection trial did nothing to fracture the GOP. As a matter of fact, it did just the contrary. That stands in contrast to the 55% of all respondents in the survey who said the former president should be barred from holding elective office in the future. So an overwhelming amount of support to allow Trump to hold office again. So clearly, Republicans are not done with Trump, not even close. He may be down, but he is certainly not out of favor with the GOP after being impeached twice. That's what I love about this thing. Trump is 2-0. 2-0 being acquitted. It only made him stronger. Twice impeached, vilified by Democrats in the trial, and virtually silenced by social media, which is exactly what just happened. Despite all, Donald Trump keeps a solid foothold in the Republican Party, according to the poll, which was questioned by 1,000 adults. Over 1,000 adults took this questionnaire. It's a very good indication of how favored Donald Trump is right now. Let's head back over to the Keyboard Warrior Cam and see what the American people have to say about such favoritism for Trump right now. I'm going to read this comment because it goes against everything we stand for. Lori says, "I still cannot fathom how anyone can think this man is okay to have any type of leadership role. I cannot imagine claiming him as anyone I respect. He is a perfect example of what not to be." You know, I'm going to guess and assume that Lori is a diehard liberal and that she probably hasn't looked at any of Trump's accomplishments leading up to January 6th. The only thing Trump is really guilty of is asking his followers to exercise their First Amendment right. And again, it's not even anything to be guilty of because the Constitution allows us to exercise our First Amendment right. And Jim Jordan actually, in a lot, I had Jim Jordan, I pulled up a video of Jim Jordan a few days ago in my live, and he explained it beautifully. There were 4 principles that Jim Jordan made his decision on. 4 principles that him and the rest of the Republican Party weighed against whether or not they should vote to convict or acquit Trump. And the 4 principles were this: was the trial constitutional or not? No, it wasn't, they deemed. Most of the Republicans, all but 6, deemed that the trial was unconstitutional. So they didn't want to move forward to convict Trump just based on that one principle alone. But that was not the only principle. That was Mitch McConnell's only principle. But Jim Jordan has 3 other principles that most of them kept to when deciding whether or how to vote. Unfair constitutional. It was unconstitutional. There was no due process, no fair trial. And here's the caveat. It was an attack on the First Amendment right. Right there, Jim Jordan and so many other Republicans put the First Amendment ahead of everything that happened that day. They considered the insurrection as a protest, as an exercise of freedom of speech and nothing more. And it did nothing to unify the American people. So those 4 principles alone were enough for Jim Jordan and so many other Republicans to adhere to ultimately acquit Trump. And I love that he put the First Amendment in one of those 4 principles, because that is exactly what January 6th was all about. It was a protest, just like the violent riots were protests all summer long. You can't have one protest set of rules and another for different parties. So, Lori, I'm not sure what you mean with your comment here. I think Trump did a phenomenal job, and so do 75% of other and all Republicans. And whenever you ask a Democrat why exactly they voted for Trump, they still can't give you a good answer. All they seem to say is, well, I just don't want to deal with Trump anymore. Okay, but why did you vote for Biden? I'm not really sure. I just don't want to deal with Trump anymore. So when I see comments like Lori, I can't really take them seriously, because there's nothing ever good about why they voted for Biden. It's only negative about why they voted against Trump. I can come up with 1,000,001 ways as to why I can imagine having respect for Trump. And it's because he put us first. Always put the American people first. Brad says, I would like to see Trump play a huge role in the GOP in the future. Based off his popularity and office he just stood, he is the de facto leader. Looking forward, he will be 78 in 2024. While it may be unpopular, not that unpopular, because look at Biden. I believe he's 78 right now. While it may be unpopular, I feel he should be a principal advisor / influencer or executive chair type in the party and not run for president again. Let someone else, his sons or daughters perhaps. However, if he did run, I would vote for him a 3rd time. I love that. I'd vote for him a 3rd time. Either way, I'm confident he will do a great job in whatever role it is. I am grateful for his sacrifices and services of POTUS. He is the de facto leader for sure. And the poll that just came out confirmed that most Republicans, or more Republicans, actually do want him to be and play a major role. Cynthia says he did not lose and therefore should not admit to anything. The truth will become evident in time. Meanwhile, we will continue to love and support him in whatever role he decides to take. Let's talk about defeat. How about those impeachment circus we have endured, paid for, and then triumphantly won? All you can do is hate. The January event you speak of was nothing compared to BLM and Antifa riots. Good grief, get a grip on reality. Trump rules you, the Democrats, the liberals, the mainstream media, Hollywood, and every other snake in the grass, swamp water creature who has no life if not for Trump. That's got to be comment of the day right there. Cynthia, perfect comment from start to finish. She tackled the fraudulent election. She tackled the fact that he triumphantly won 2 impeachment trials. He tackled the hate the Democrats continue to throw at Trump. She tackled BLM and the Antifa riots. Everything about this statement summarizes the Republican Party's love and passion for former President Trump. It's a great statement from start to finish. I want to see Biden and Camel kicked to the curb, says Ashley. And the right president placed at the White House. It shall come to pass that they will have to announce the true winner of the 2020 elections, President Donald Trump. It will happen. If you guys see a general theme here, almost every comment that I've read so far, there's claims of election fraud. This is how confident the Republican Party still is to this day that a tremendous amount of fraud was committed. And I'll come out and say it. I do think there was a lot of fraud committed, a tremendous amount. There was testimony, there was evidence. I can't sit here and not believe that fraud at some level was committed. Was there enough to overturn the election? I don't know. I don't know if we're ever going to find out that answer. And the fact that no local court or Supreme Court decided to hear the case, I guess we're never going to find out. But the fact that they were so eager to hide and not bring forth all of the evidence, the overwhelming amount of evidence, leads me to believe they knew that if it came out, there may be a chance that they wouldn't win after all. But we're never going to know because we never got our fair day in court. So, back to Mitch McConnell and the other rhino-type leaders right now that are frustrated by the fact that so many patriots continue to back Trump is because they're scared. They feel threatened. They're washed up anyway. Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi, their day in the Senate are over. Their day in Congress are coming to an end. It's now time to make way for a new and fresh breed of patriot congressmen and women who are going to get out there and fight for the party. We don't need anyone else shaming us. We don't need Mitch McConnell waving his old little finger at us, trying to tell us we were all naughty that day. That's not what we need right now. We need Republican GOP leaders unifying us. We need the Rand Pauls, the Jim Jordans, the Matt Gaetz, the Josh Hawleys, the Elise Stefanik's, the Lauren Berberts. We need more of these people. That's who we need in office. We don't need silent Republicans either. That's just as bad. There's too many Republican senators and representatives who are saying nothing because they're more concerned about their votes than they are being accused of saying the wrong thing. It's gutless and it's cowardly. And they are just as guilty as the likes of Mitch McConnell and Mitt Romney and everyone else who voted to convict or shamed or continue to shame Trump to this very day. So Republican leaders who are silent are just as guilty as those who are shaming us and as are guilty as those who convicted Trump. We need a new class of courageous and bold Republicans who are going to fight against Democrats, who are not going to allow the Republican Party to be walked on and trampled on because our Constitution, our conservative values are too important to let that happen. Let's take a look at a few more comments before we wrap up the show and see what the American people have to say about 3 out of 4 Republicans being in favor of Donald Trump playing a major role in the GOP. Alan says that's what the Democrats are scared of. So they will go after him. Nasty Nancy will get all the Democrat DA around the country to go after him. Sad they can't move on. It is pathetic. It's pathetic that the Democrats continue to obsess over Donald Trump and focus all of their attention in our hard-earned tax dollars on a single man who's not even in office anymore. What is with their obsession with this guy? Are they that scared? And see, this is how insane they all are. They can keep doing this to Trump all day long. They can keep going after Trump all day long. But it doesn't negate the fact that 75 million more Patriots are going to continue to fight. It doesn't negate the fact that Republican leaders are going to step up in Trump's place. What are you going to do? Go after every single leader or every single Republican that has a problem with the Democrat Party? You're going to go after them? You're going to silence them every single time somebody comes out against your narrative? That's not how politics works. That's not checks and balances. That's called communism. That's called a dictatorship. And that is why we really need more of these Republican leaders stepping up, because of the people like Nancy Pelosi who are constantly attacking and going after anybody who goes up against their agenda. So it's very clear that Republicans want Trump back. It's very clear that we're going to see a lot more of Trump leading up to the 2022 primary. And as we get closer, you better believe Republicans are going to start getting much louder. Trump might be on the golf course today. He might be remaining a little bit silent in the background, but I honestly think this is all the calm before the storm. I think we're going to see a great deal of Trump. I think it scares the heck out of the Democrats. And every time I hear somebody try to remind me that Trump's gone, get over it. Oh, he's not gone, and neither are we. We're going to get louder, we're going to get more aggressive, and we're going to start to see more Republican candidates come up through the ranks and start to fight back like we should have been this entire time. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Remember, we're on Amazon Music, iTunes, TuneIn, Spotify, tons of other podcast platforms, and we live stream every single day to Facebook and YouTube at 3 p.m. Thank you so much. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to You Made It Political with Matt Clark. Be sure to like, follow, or subscribe to the show, or leave us a review on iTunes. And if you like our show or want to know more, check out YouMadeItPolitical.com.